Focus High School.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Human beings have this strange ability or this great ability to be what they want to be. To be what they want to be. They are not constrained by instinct the way animals are, and their understanding of themselves and their environs makes them take decisions to be what they want to be. That kind of freedom is available to us. We can be what we want to be. So the question is, the more knowledge we have of ourselves and things around us, we would choose to be what we want to be on the basis of that knowledge. And in the event of us not understanding ourselves, we would, or things around us, we would take decisions to be what we want to be on the basis of limited and at times fanciful ideas which do not yield results. So it's a very, very significant thing that we start knowing ourselves in a more scientific manner and understanding things around us in a proper, rational manner. The difficulty here is that human beings of today are not the products of today. I want your attention here. Human beings of today are not the product of today. They have a history going back to the beginning of the human civilization. You just take the language we use. You just look at the sources of the words we use, which might be going to 100 years, 200 years, some words 500 years, some words 1200 years. And we understand what we mean by a particular word. The meaning of it started taking shape in the known history of etymology. The language, studying science, the science which studies the source of the word from where it came. In English, it goes back mostly to Latin, and before that, what happened, we don't have a record of. There are some studies, but they are very, very, very developed studies in linguistics which go back. Generally what we see in dictionaries is the source, and at times they give you the period in which this word actually started being used in the English language and its source. So when we are going to find the meaning of words, we go back hundreds of years, and the word in that language we are using as the base language will be going another maybe 2000 years, maybe 3000 years. This is how deep roots we have of the words we use, of the words we understand, the meaning we give to words. Again, we are product of generations of ancestors we have had. From the hunter-gatherer period, when agriculture was also not started, to this period. And we carry the genes of the same ancestors, and what they have given us through the process of their genes is also part of us, the anthropological studies. Then we have history. Recorded history goes somewhere around maybe 6000 years from now, where human beings started to write and give some permanent form to their ideas, starting from the Babylonian period as we have it now. So the depth of the human being of today really goes back to thousands of years, of which he needs to keep an account. Each individual will not be able to do it. This will have to happen through a movement among individuals who bring their ideas to the table and share it with others, so that by understanding and questioning these ideas, their understanding of themselves as human beings becomes more profound in the light of the basic subjects which I have quoted: language, anthropology, history, which has a deep impact on all of us. Apart from that, we have the study of the soul, which is the most peculiar thing that human beings have. Being capable of not just understanding, but trying to find ways of putting what they have understood in a perspective, giving it a bigger picture than the present life of that individual, that is going back thousands of years. This is possible for us. This is the spread of the soul. The soul starts taking a picture of the past, and as it takes a picture of the past, it has the capacity to take the picture of the future. When you find in certain scriptures or certain individuals that they have been able to forecast events in a general manner and at times in a particular manner as well, that is by identifying individuals. This means they are people who have the ability to look into the future as well on the basis of knowledge, not on the basis of conjecture. There is a lot of conjecture when you speak of the future. There are a lot of godmen who practice this, and maybe they have some occult powers in certain areas. What I am speaking of is not that occult power. I am speaking of the ability to see the future through the past and the present on the basis of how the past grew and we became the product of the past and the present, and how this past and present would impact the future. This I am speaking on the basis of knowledge, what we can do. So the question again is very, very simple. Are we willing to take this journey or not? Are we going to go through what we were, what we are, so that we can formulate policies to become part of what the future would be by understanding it? And then sitting here, the present will shape the future and start shaping the future on the basis of knowledge. A school is the best place for discussing these things, learning about them, talking about them, and trying to develop future ideas on the basis of strong proofs from the present as well as the past. This is the power of the human soul. The expansiveness, the brilliance, the radiance, the effulgence, all put together makes the soul what it is. Now when we speak of the soul in this manner, we see this aspect of the human being which gives him or her or his identity is being neglected, considered as part of the mind, not given additional importance, and as a result, the weakening of the soul has been the result of modern day development. Our souls have in general sagged, ढीले पड़ गए. We do not realize that the soul has not been created to feel sad. The soul has not been created to feel depressed. The soul has not been created to feel forlorn, alone, because it has the mobility to go into the past, understand the present, and through them the future. It has an immense ability to link with other souls in a wonderful manner which is beyond the pale of hormones. That is the physical pale. But the present generation does not seem to understand the intricacies of the soul, its ability to create love, its ability to create harmony, its ability to create order, its ability to be less obtrusive, its ability to be happy in the happiness of others, its ability to help beyond its ability to help, that is sacrifice, empathy. All these are qualities of the soul which emanates from God Almighty, and as the source is pure, the soul in its creation is pure. Therefore, I said it was not created to feel sad, forlorn, depressed. So, how do we feel all of these things when we are not created for that? The soul is what we are represented by. Once the soul leaves the body starts disintegrating, and the person's body is of no use. It would be either cremated or buried. So these are the things which we really to learn. That what is happening to the soul is something which has come about as a result of its not recognizing its source. As I told you, the word has a source in another language, and that may be going back to another language. Similarly, the soul is going back to something. Like the word goes back to a particular meaning, and then we start using it in another meaning and it develops. Similarly, the soul has a source, and the source in all religions is higher than the soul. The soul in all religions is higher than the soul. If the soul is called Atmaya in Hinduism, the Paramatma or the Paramatma is the source. In Islam, Christianity, Judaism is the creator. You call him by any name, Allah, God, Yahweh, or whatever other name. But the source is higher than the soul. So whatever goodness you find in the soul is basically coming from that source. So that source needs to be the compass of the soul. This is what all religions say. I am not going to speak during this discussion of any particular religion, because the source of all religions is the same source of purity, because no religion has survived which has said that it is not moving on the principles of purity. Even Buddhism, which is not very emphatic about God, relies totally on the principle of purity, the purity of the soul, and as a result, after the soul reaches a particular level of purity and the body and soul are separated, that is, death occurs, it reaches the state of moksha, nirvana, Jains would like to say that. And therefore, we find that the source from which we have come becomes of prime importance in this world which is becoming materialistic by the day. And material wealth, which is what you have in store more than what you are using. The billionaires are mentioned day in and day out. I don't remember on Google News whether I have not seen Bill Gates or some other billionaire without being mentioned each day on the news platform. I have not seen it. So they have become the prophets of modern times. The wealth they have generated through business, through ideas, and through other strategies which they have followed, they have become the modern day prophets. Their way, anybody now would be too happy to follow and be noted as a super billionaire. So the world is moving towards the physical generation of wealth. How much wealth they are using is immaterial. Maybe their ability to generate this much wealth was a result of strategies, result of certain developments which took place outside their domain, of which they were the beneficiaries. Later on, acquisitions which they did because they had the money to buy startups, and all put together they became great with good ideas. I don't say bad ideas. And nobody should grudge their ability to create wealth. But the question is, for all of us here who have children to deal with, can they become good models for us? Complete models for us, for our children? Or there is something much more different in the human spirit and much more profound, much more important, much more useful than the billions which are reflected as their net worth, of which they hardly partake anything. They own it, but they are known through it, but they eat something similar to us, sleep the way we sleep, maybe in more comfortable beds. But as you know, a more comfortable bed is not a guarantee of a better sleep. On the contrary, somebody who understands the soul, understands himself better, is more capable of having a better sleep, because he knows what I have in store is of no value to me at this particular time when I am left with my soul to ponder. When I am alone and I am just thinking about my wealth, will that strengthen me or weaken me? It's obviously weaken me. I have to think of something different, right? And if I continue thinking of generating wealth, again that will burn me out. So I have to come back to myself. I have to come back to myself. This coming back to myself, this understanding of myself, and then gaining strength from what I am, makes a big difference for all of us. Big difference for all of us. Understanding what I am. When you are alone and you have a lot of time at times, I am a worthy person or not? Not through my wealth, how much I own, no. Worthy in creation. Have I been created a worthy thing or not? Here it is that the praise of the human soul is there in every religion. The soul is praised, extolled in different ways to make you understand, make us understand that we have a wealth in the form of the soul, to which the mind and the body have been given. The mind is given to the soul. If the soul is active, it will make the mind active in that direction of goodness, of bliss, of contentment, of helping others, of creating a better world, controlling anger, and so many other things which follow, which the creation of material wealth by itself won't come and give you. So your wealth, in that real sense as a human being, is not what you own, because that's much, much inferior to you, but your wealth is the strength of your soul. Some people might be placed to earn more money, some people might be placed to earn less money, but if my less in the form of wealth is going to depress me, is going to push me down, and by just seeing other people having more money, more wealth in the form of some kind of luxury, some kind of comfort would push me down, that means I have lost my soul. Because what is most important in me and has nothing to do with what other people are enjoying in the form of material wealth is not being regarded by me as the most important thing I own. And that's going to remain with me till the end of my life and even onwards, if you follow some religion, any religion for that matter. What are we then looking at? Something which we have of the greatest importance, and it's not going away from us here. And it has a mind to work with and use, and a body to execute. Forgetful of the mind. When we are forgetful of the soul, we are forgetful of the mind, because the mind is under the control of the soul. You want to study something, you study. You want to go to sleep, you sleep. You want to talk to someone, you talk, if the other person is available. Who is making these choices? Not your mind. You are making the choice. You switch your mind from one thing to the other, the mind switches. The hand, the feet, the eyes, the ears are subservient to you. You can choose what to listen. Unless you are being forced to made to listen something different, forced to see something different, but you generally have a choice. So you are forgetful of the choices you make. What you put into your mind is your choice. What you read, what you see, how you see, all are dictated by the soul to the mind, and the mind keeps it. The mind takes in everything you want it to take. But what you actually remember is what the soul was really involved with. It's not the, at times you want to remember something and you repeat it 20 times over and you forget it. And something just comes once in front of you and 20 years later also you remember it. The brain was there, the mind was there. How much you took of it and with what earnest you took it, how naturally you took it, becomes more important than the artificial methods of learning. If you could get that into the child, that process where absorption becomes a natural process, being itself becomes an absorbing entity, your own being, the whole, and you choose the best to put in and emphasize on that, and throw the other things which clutter your mind. What do you become? You become something for which you have been designed, for using the mind in the way the mind has been designed, and using your body the way the body has been designed. If it flows from the soul, the mind works the way it has been designed for, and the body works in the way it is designed for. Remove that, give less attention to it. It's like somebody has not washed himself for a period of time. The soul, created in all that glory by the Lord, slowly starts to accumulate dirt around itself. And a soul which has not been able to find its own bearings, its own originality, will use the mind according to its own condition. If it is a sagging soul, the mind would also sag. And a sag mind would like to run after ordinary things to engage itself. And once the mind is engaged in ordinary things, the hands and feet will also work in that direction. So it's like a downward spiral, while we have been created for a upward spiral. Now when the upward spiral is not taking place and the downward spiral is taking place, However entertaining it might be, your feeling of depression doesn't go. Your feeling of sadness doesn't go. It's like using an instrument for the wrong purpose. A hammer in place of a screwdriver. A screw with a screwdriver can go in the medium, for example wood, very conveniently. Use a hammer for that. It can be used, but it's not the right way to use. Similarly, we use our body in the wrong manner. We use our mind in a worse manner. Mostly thinking of things which are useless. They say a lot of our time goes maybe 70 to 75% in fanciful thinking. We are just thinking here and there, nothing comes out of it, and thanks God nothing comes out of it. And thanks God that nothing comes out of it, basically because had something come out of that 75% of worthless thought which we are ruminating on, we would not have been what we are. We would have degenerated still further. हमारी हर ख्वाहिश जो हम अखली बुनियादों पर, सोच की बुनियाद पर, on the basis of proper rational reasoning नहीं करते, उम्मीदों को बढ़ाते जाते हैं. If these things started coming to us, the world would be a mad place. It wouldn't be a place where we are having sane people working with each other. So God has limited those fanciful ideas to the state of the mind, but it's not going to do anything good for the mind itself. If you limit them, create order in the mind, then you become a different person. But to do all that, that focus to the source becomes necessary, compulsory. If you are not doing that, you will find that creating a good mind and making the mind work in tandem with the body becomes an impossibility. This is the reason that psychiatric problems are coming the way they are coming. Mental health has become the most important thing in today's time. Mental illnesses. Psychiatrists are having a field day. With the pandemic coming in, they say the business of the psychiatrists has increased by many folds. They don't have to come to the clinic. They are online. They are Zooming. So that is what we have become. One pandemic is sending us all into a state of deep fear and depression. This is what it's all about. On the other side, you have that faith in God, the Creator. Work with Him. Or maybe as the Quran says and other scriptures also say, in Him. Work in Him. There is nothing apart from Him if you look at it in one way. If you even look at yourself, you are a process which He started. And you were not created opposite to Him. Though you might at times act opposite to your own purpose of creation. That's the purpose of creation that you are acting opposite to. You are not acting opposite to God. He created you and me for a purpose. We are acting opposite to it. So it's like a satellite which has lost its orbit and is coming down to Earth. So is it fighting the Earth? No. We sent it. Is it fighting humanity? Is it fighting us at all? No. Similarly, us, when we have lost our bearings, don't fight God. We fight against our own natural self. And when there are two personalities coming, one the natural one and the other artificial one which we have created. So the artificial one will never reach the level of the original one. But we think that the thing which we have created, the knowledge we have about ourselves, what we think about ourselves is the real self. So it is a design, put on a design which is not working. And it won't work. It won't work. It will work in the material realm, it might give wealth, but the wealth after it's coming doesn't help. It might give you popularity, the popularity after coming doesn't help. So it is really sad that a person who thought that popularity, wealth are the main things for which he is working, that everybody would clap for him, finds that the claps have become meaningless. He had gone to it. Religion speaks of this like a mirage. There are verses in the scriptures. What you are running towards is not the reality. It looks to be the reality. It's not water, you are thinking it's water. You run there, you reach that point, and there you have only a mirage, sarab, and you feel dejected. So after the effort of years of hard work, you end up at the thing which doesn't give you satisfaction. The wealth becomes meaningless, the popularity becomes meaningless. And if you really hold on to it, maybe the wealth is coming down, maybe the popularity is coming down, diminishing, or becoming less popular, and that creates even further problems. Like Olympic gold medalist Phelps had, he has been able to get 20 odd medals, majority of them gold, a very big majority of them gold, but still suffers from depression to the extent of contemplating suicide. And he has documented this, not for now, but for years, when he was at the top of his swimming career. So there is something in us which asks for something unlimited, which doesn't come from money, which doesn't come from popularity. The soul is dependent on something which is above it, not on something which is below it. And whatever we are speaking of, the wealth, the popularity, all concerns our bodily existence. It is not our real existence, it is the existence of the soul, and when we pursue it, we pursue something in the wrong direction, thinking it to be the right direction. So one of the biggest problems, because we are not driven by instinct, a bird flying or migrating during winters doesn't miss its path. It knows where there would be a better winter. For example, birds flying from Siberia to India know that in India the winters would be less harsh, the temperatures would be above zero, where in Siberia they would be touching something like minus 50, close to that, and they know when they come, they don't miss it. They don't miss it to the extent that they come to the same place where they had come last year. That is the exactitude with which they work. And what about us? We don't have that exactitude. We don't have it, like it or not. So we are totally dependent on knowledge, and knowledge which is not particular to a particular group of people. They call it Sophia perennis. It's a knowledge which is perennial. It was there in earlier times, from when the human civilization started to grow, and it continues and will be till the last of times. It will be there, and we are all part of it. It's a continuous process of knowledge. We become part of it. In that knowledge, we have a creator. The creator has to be perfect, basically because our imperfections are as a result of our own ignorance, of us not knowing. When the creator was the only thing that was, and still if he has, using he only for convenience, weaknesses, that means his weaknesses are intrinsic. Our weaknesses are in process of creation, that we have a limited body, a limited mind, with the limited capacity to memorize and remember things and to relate. We are in a limited framework. So our limit is our weakness, in a way. The limit of our mind, the limit of our body. We can lift a particular weight, not more than that. Our mind can absorb certain things. Above that, it won't be able to do, even for the best of individuals. There is a limit. A limit is our weakness. But that is basically designed. It's like a computer. For the kind of computer we are using now, the memory is more than sufficient, but it's limited. But for the function which we want to perform, it's perfect. We are not on a supercomputer, we don't require a supercomputer now. Similarly, man has been designed for the purpose for which he has been designed. to function in this world, create a heaven on the world, in the world. Because if you are being sent by God with the ability to think in His way, that is, think on the basis of proofs. The initial proofs which come from God are the basis of creation. They say the Big Bang, when it started, within a fraction of a second, all the laws, all the famous 4 laws of the physical world, the gravitational force, the electromagnetic force, the weak and the strong nuclear forces, were there in a fraction of a second. Because had it not been there, this world wouldn't have been what it is. Simple as that. They had to be there from the beginning of creation. Simple as that. So the idea, the proof was all in Him, because perfection requires that. So His perfection created our soul. The soul is perfect when it is related and in contact with the main source, the Paramatma. And once it is forgetful of that source, it starts disintegrating in the world. It gets topsy-turvy. It doesn't have an instinct of that kind, which birds have. But the activity of the human being is not limited to be moved on the basis of instinct. It is too complicated. Therefore, we have intelligence. Therefore, we have a very powerful soul. But that is being disregarded in today's world. And in pedagogy, in learning and teaching, this is the main source of giving confidence to the teachers, who are both learners as well as teachers. Their will to learn is what actually moves them. And their will to teach, if it's really earnest, will make them learn more and more. And therefore, they will become lifelong learners and imbibe the same qualities in the children they are teaching. But if they are not like that, if their life is not one continuous process of being and feeling elated to be created humans, to be created human. हम इंसान बन गए हैं, लेकिन हमको इंसान बनने की खुशी नहीं है. हजारों हम हमारे पर तारी होते हैं, आते हैं, और हम उनके ताल्लुक से बहुत ज़्यादा गमज़दा हैं. हमारे पास पैसा कम है, किसी के पास पैसा ज़्यादा नहीं है. मैं आपको बोल दूँ, nobody has wealth he would be happy about it. Not even Bezos or Bill Gates. No, nobody has it. You will always find, they say there is always one room less in the house you live. Irrespective of whatever kind of house you have, you will feel that there is always one room less. So if that's being the case, understand your priorities better. Limited wealth, limited access to things is not the biggest problem you have. It can be a problem. The biggest problem is that you have not been able to find your soul. Live the soul and create a world around it to fashion the world of both matter and maybe earnings also. Maybe a person who has understood his soul or her soul better would become more productive, and as a result, the shift from one level of economic gains to the other level. A higher salary, a higher recognition could come forward, but we want to go it the other way. We want the world first, the soul will improve. God says, improve your soul, I'll give you the world. There are so many verses in the Quran and the other scriptures where the soul has become the source of material growth. There are so many. God speaks of prophet, both in the Old Testament, New Testament, where wealth has come to people. In the Quran, you go to the Vedas, you will find the same thing. Go to Buddhist literature, you will find the same thing, where the soul becomes the creator of value through a learning process. So by creating more value, you become more wealthy. And because wealth is not the purpose for which you are living, because that will go away, and it's a very relative thing, you will create more and more value and want less and less for you. This is how the prophets live. They created more value and they received in material form much lesser. And today they are respected for that. Christ is not respected. The Prophet Muhammad is not respected. Buddha is not respected. Anybody among the Prophet is not respected basically because he had wealth. No. Was not respected for that. They are even respected today for what they gave the world, which was values. And you as teachers, and we all as teachers, need to think of that. The values which we'll be able to give to children, provided that we can swear by those values. Otherwise, we'll be swearing on each other. Choices are ours. Whether we would like to swear on each other or swear by the values for which we have been created. Once this problem is solved in a proper manner, we will get into a world which is very different, very peaceful. Every person you will be meeting, specifically in the school, would look a help to you, not a challenge to you. We have, without wanting to, ask some of our teachers to part with from the institution for a period of time till we come into a better shape from the point of view of money. I understand money is important, earnings are important, but we had to save this institution for a period of time to come out from this crisis, this pandemic. But I can tell you, if we hold to the values for which we were created, we can create a world around us. Despite the ups and downs of life, they will be there. There will be issues of health. Forget it that they won't be there. There will be issues of wealth. There will be issues of wealth, there will be issues of health. World is a place where change is a constant. There is no doubt about it. And we are part of that change. It can take you on the right side, it can take you on the left side. And remember, nobody in this world has always had everything going in the direction he or she wants to. It looks from a distance that everything is hunky-dory, fine for them. No, it's not like that. They have a lot to worry about, a lot to think about. Even the kings and the powerful people. The kings and the presidents and the prime ministers. Yeah, everybody has a task at hand and which they have to fight against. And the fight is bigger than the fight we are doing. But when we want to create a world around us, the world in which children are involved, thousands of children might be involved in the future. We have already 1,000 plus. We will be having thousands in the near future. When we first started with this kind of an idea, maybe some people might have felt that it was not possible. But I can tell you, this still is the beginning. If not grown, I consider it 7 years. We are a 7-year-old. That's all we are. We are a 7-year-old institution. That means we are a 7-year-old kid. There is still time to grow and blossom. And we will do that, provided the best in us comes out, and the best in us is our soul. It has a wonderful ability to have nothing and feel like having everything. People who have eaten less have felt that they are more satiated than people who have become continuous eaters, gluttony if you would call it, and want more. They have the world, they want more of it. And who has to give it? The poorest of the poor. The money of the poor is going to the richest for them to show that they are the greatest people on earth. They know they are going to die one day. So being the greatest person on earth doesn't make a lot of sense. And what kind of greatness? I have money. Something lower than you should not be something which should become the most significant thing. That shows that your thinking is baseless. How can something lower than you become the greatest thing by which you want to be identified? Not your thought, but your money. Not your sacrifice, but your money. So all these things need to be reworked, rethought, and the school, the teachers are the main source of the change which the society will see tomorrow. If we don't change for the better, the tomorrow of our community, of our society, of India at large and the world at large would be dark, dismal. And if we think and grow above this and find happiness in what we have, by creating value and reaching a different level of material wealth, I am not denying the fact that material wealth is having a role in human life. There is no doubt about it. There is no doubt about it. Please don't think I am saying that salary or no salary things are equal. No, I am not saying that. I am just trying to prioritize things. I am trying to put the horse before the cart, because we have a tendency to do the opposite. That is what I am telling. We should really learn where we can be happy, how we can be happy, the minimum at which we can survive, and then from there if you grow, that kind of confidence will always be there. That kind of confidence will always be there. God doesn't test us more than our abilities. He has tested the prophets in a way which we, if we think, would be really disturbed. He doesn't test us like the way he tested the prophets, because they had a soul. They were tested by everything. They were tested by fire. They were tested by persecution, by death, by poverty, penury, disease. Call it, you can just name it. They had to face it. And they did it with a smile. Therefore, they are of value to us. Therefore, they are of value to us. For what they were and at what level they were. Can we get a part of it? The reason that religions are required is for this. To partake of the goodness of the souls of the earlier prophets. Bringing it through the ways they lived, through worship of God, into us, and creating a world as powerful as that they have shown glimpses of. And then the glimpse of God, if we are able to have that in our lives, that would become our greatest wealth. And while we leave this world, that glimpse of God would be with us. And that is what real life and real success would be of this world. And if you like to have it, the hereafter. Thank you very much.
Focus High School.